It's great to be here with everybody so we can share experiences and learn how to go faster. You'll notice a lot of common themes in this conference and across your own experience, which is why it's so important to get together so we can all get better. One you've already heard about that Kevin's going to touch on quite a bit as well is the need to span the business and technology divide. It's not just about dev, and it's not just about ops, and it's not about automation. It's really about giving everyone a seat at the table, from the CIO to the release manager to the compliance team to the line of business owner. Everybody needs the visibility, and everybody needs the information to truly make the business successful. Another common theme is you need to design your infrastructure for the growth. As you move beyond DevOps pilots, you really need to look for the future and think about the platforms, the technologies, and the processes. So how many of you saw the BMW i8 outside? If you haven't already, it's a really sweet car. And I'm a crazy BMW fan. A few years ago, I took their performance driving class, where race car drivers teach you how to drive fast around a track and control the car while you do things like pull out of a skid. And as you're spinning in circles, they say to come out of it, look where you want the car to go, and the car will follow. And sure enough, I could never remember turn into the skid, which way is turning into the skid. But when you looked where you wanted to go, the car did in fact follow. And it's the same for everything in life, including DevOps. You really need to set clear goals and set benchmarks along the way to make sure you're tracking them and capture the right metrics to get to your goals. Not just any metrics, capture the right metrics. Keep iterating, get feedback, and then make sure you're still going in the direction you want to go in. Okay, so let's talk about Lincoln Financial Group. They are a grand old dame of US financial institutions. They're an insurance company that has more than 9,000 employees, and they're 113 years old. They have hundreds of billions of dollars in assets under management, and they do hundreds of releases every month. Their business is to enhance people's lifestyle through financial stability. They are in the business of mitigating risk for their customers. So as you can imagine, it's a pretty challenging environment in which you need to make changes, right? Risk mitigation means don't break anything. How many people here work in highly regulated industries? Quite a few. So you know it's hard, right? Lincoln also has the complicated mix of legacy and modern technologies that you would expect in a company that's been around for this long. And everything has to come together to release these applications. On top of that, they have various processes across various business units, and the speeds of processes vary widely. And it actually creates a synchronization problem, surprisingly enough. Oh, and by the way, they're undergoing an enterprise-wide agile transformation. They're still using some waterfall, they're moving towards agile, but there's a lot of change going on here. On top of that, a DevOps transformation too. So, how do you succeed implementing DevOps in such a challenging environment? How do you lay the foundation for success? I'm going to turn it over to Kevin to tell you.
Thanks, Lisa, for the warm introduction, opening remarks. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay, great. I'm excited to be here today. This is a great opportunity to learn from all of you and be able to present and speak and talk about our DevOps journey at Lincoln Financial Group. The elephant in the room, DevOps. What are some key concepts that come to mind when you hear DevOps? Don't be shy, shout them out. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
Automation.
Automation, culture, change.
Velocity.
Velocity. One more.
Tools.
Tools. Perfect. The gentleman over here mentioned it. You must have seen my deck. DevOps, we feel at Lincoln Financial Group, is a culture change, where we want to change culture to deliver high-quality working software faster. Another way we can talk about it is, how can we increase the quality of our product and bring it to the market faster? Furthermore, it's a philosophy where teams are accountable for everything to get their code developed, tested, and deployed to production, while shared services teams provide the automation and tools to enable them. And at the bottom of the screen here, you can see it starts with agile. So we really want to make sure, as we embark on our DevOps journey, that we're keeping agile in mind, and we're shifting from a waterfall to an agile mindset. Because that's really key. You're going to struggle, and we did early on, if we're not agile. So keeping culture in mind, we realized we needed a sound strategy and execution approach, one which focused on being agile, but then automation enables DevOps across our business and our enterprise. How do we do that? I'm not going to go into all the bullets. I'm just going to touch upon one for the sake of time. They say you have 15 minutes of fame in your lifetime. I got 25, so I got to stick to the 25. So we're going to go deep then broad. We really want to pilot, learn from that, and scale out. The other area where we focus on is mainframe and DevOps. So we're an insurance carrier, financial organization. We have a large distributed application portfolio and footprint, but we also have a lot of footprint and presence on the mainframe. So when we started embarking on our journey, the mainframe folks were saying, great, everything you're showing us is around distributed applications, Java, .NET. Does DevOps even work with the mainframe? Yes. So what we've done is we partner with vendors, we created pilots, we created a working group specifically with our mainframe partners within our company. And we're arriving at enterprise patterns for mainframe. That can be leveraged by the other teams that are beyond the pilot. So the key here is you really got to know your audience when you embark on this DevOps journey. And we're doing that by pulling in these mainframe folks. Next up, we have Center of Excellence. How many have COEs within your organization? You probably have them for application development, PMO, business analyst. We have those too. So to keep up with the Joneses, if you will, we had a DevOps. But what does that do? Just like we saw the benefits in these other Center of Excellences, we're seeing that for DevOps too. And we're coming up with best practices, collaboration, and helping drive that culture across our business units. Speaking of business units, it comes to really business unit specific adoption. From an IT perspective, and in my role as enterprise release management lead, the team and I, we track 9 business units. We have life, annuity, group protection, retirement plan services. We also have an enterprise data management automation team, omnichannel, and our retail arms. So 9 business units, it's a lot to manage from a release perspective. It's also a lot to onboard from a DevOps perspective. So how are we doing that? We've identified, partnering with our senior leadership team in each of these business units, to identify a DevOps leader. And that individual, he or she, is really responsible to partner with the enterprise team and drive the adoption within their business unit. So we work with them to develop a backlog for teams to onboard. They're ultimately accountable for the success of DevOps within an organization. We also have a run organization within Lincoln. This team really focuses on production support and maintenance. So in general terms, DevOps, if you build it, you own it. We need to figure out how we're going to adopt this model and flush things out to make sure that we can accommodate not only new development, but also break fix and all that into DevOps. So like our mainframe model, by having a working group, we have a run organization where we focus and we bring in representatives from the various vendors that we partner with for our maintenance and support work, and we are arriving at pilots and patterns to identify opportunities to improve DevOps within this space. So again, know your audience and bring them to the table. Lastly, steering committee. So this steering committee is really the go-to people and team when we have blockers and impediments to help flush things out from a governance prioritization, help us with some decisions, and again, assist with the overall DevOps roadmap. And to help bridge the gap between technology and business, we have at the center of all our DevOps enterprise practice. So that inner gear, if you will, spans out to these 6 areas. Visualization. We really focus on metrics, reporting, and dashboards. We want to be able to show the progress of our success along the way. Next up, we have collaboration. I just mentioned in the prior slide about mainframe working group, the run organization working group. At the core of it all, though, it starts with our DevOps working group. We have the 9 business units that I mentioned. We have representatives from every business unit. Furthermore, we have representation of all functional areas within those business units. So what do I mean by functional area? Application development, QA, architecture, security, infrastructure, release management. Everybody has a seat at the table, if you will. They have the table stakes, so to speak. And that's real important too. So that helps drive culture. If someone feels left out, they're not going to adopt what you're trying to do. They're not going to see the value. And others are going to be on the board and heading down that journey with you, and they won't. So know your audience, keep them engaged, improve your culture along the way. We also have innovation enablers. So we carve out time within our technology areas to spend time on innovation. And that was a hard sell at first. We wanted to make sure the business understand the value, but they were first coming back saying, well, our projects are going to suffer, delay a little bit. But we walked through those processes, explained the benefits, and in the long run, they're going to gain efficiencies, we'll eliminate waste. They were able to see the big picture. So we're slowly spending more time innovating. And we need to do that when we embark on our DevOps transformations. The continuous delivery platform really focuses on CI and CD, where we were going to automate our build or deployment. We focus on automating release management, infrastructure as code as well. Next up, we have our continuous testing area, where we focus on test automation, stating the obvious there, but then also test data management. And it's also not just for our distributed apps, it's for our mainframe and our other areas too. And then lastly, to tie it back to visualization with our continuous feedback, this is where we monitor all the metrics, the dashboards, and reporting that we've identified in visualization. So we kind of come full circle with our continuous feedback. So in addition to our DevOps practice, enterprise release management, as I alluded earlier, has representation across all business units at Lincoln Financial Group. That's real important, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to drive out a release management practice to get standardization, not only from process perspective, but also tools perspective. And we can't just roll something out top down if we don't have all buy-in across every line of business, or business unit rather. So some of the key steps in our journey from pilot to enterprise adoption have been these. And some I'm going to dig deeper in future slides. But first, we solidified an engineering team. We have a small engineering team at Lincoln Financial Group, but they're powerful, and they're skilled, and they do great work, and they're building out the enterprise patterns for which all DevOps teams will be able to leverage. Right now, they're in the weeds. Eventually, they're going to become consultants, if you will. And if you remember the old game show where I think it was Let's Make a Deal or something like that, right? And you got stuck. One of the options was pick up the phone, call a friend. So that model is really where they're transitioning from doing the hands-on coding, integrating the tools, et cetera, to now being more of the consultant for the DevOps business leader and their teams as they look to embark on their journey within their business unit. So it's an exciting role for them. Hands-on, very much into it, then they're going to transition. The goal is to a little bit more consultant perspective. Establishing a support model. Just like our enterprise team, we don't have a big army. We have a lot of tools. We have a large user base for all these tools. How do we support them? How do we get innovative? How do we get creative? So we created in the mindset of being agile and DevOps, where there's open communities and DevOps days, et cetera, we have office hours or user support meetings, user community support meetings, rather. It allows people to dial in on a weekly basis at a defined time, and engineers are on the call, release managers are on the call, and we have this for our build tools, our testing tools, our release tools, et cetera. And it's just a unique way to be able to support our large user community. Because again, we don't have the capacity of dedicated resources. We don't have a call center for GitLab or for XebiaLabs XL release product. We have office hours. And it's really an innovative way to be able to support your user community. And in fact, people dial in just to learn, even if they don't have a question or they're not stuck. So we know it's a successful model. So really challenge yourself and come up with innovative and creative ways to allow you to be more successful with your DevOps journey. Metrics and dashboards and transition from manual tasks to automated pipeline. Like I mentioned, I'm going to go a little bit deeper into those. But the key with the transition from manual tasks to automated tasks, don't just automate everything. Automate the tasks that bring the most business value. And then lastly, communicate your success. So in IT this morning, we were having a conversation at our table, and a lady had mentioned that IT doesn't seem to do a good job expressing the work we do. Exactly. We struggle with that at times. So we've really improved that at Lincoln Financial. And with our DevOps journey, we do that as well. We want to communicate our success. Obviously, we track and have our visualization, metrics, et cetera, so that helps support the case too. But it's really important to keep people involved because, again, it all ties back to culture. And if you're communicating your success, they feel part of the team, they're going to be more successful. And then lastly, keeping agile in mind, we want to document our improvements. So lessons learned. We all conduct those when we have after post-release. Not all times maybe we implement those. So how do we improve that experience as we embark on DevOps? So document improvement areas, fix, and move forward. So now that I've talked about our strategy, execution approach, and our DevOps practice, I want to pivot and talk about release management and how Lincoln Financial Group decided to utilize XebiaLabs' XL release product to release or to manage its release pipeline. And working with these 9 business units across our IT organization, we came up with hundreds of release individuals. And these release individuals were responsible for submitting their own change records and managing their own release. And the majority of it, as you can see, hopefully you can see, was like in a spreadsheet. So we had spreadsheets flying around, emails going back and forth. We didn't have enterprise visibility. We lacked the transparency. We didn't have enterprise calendar. Things were in network drive, SharePoints, emails, et cetera. So we're getting that. And then we implemented a 2-phase strategy approach. One, which is manual workflow. So we said, get off your spreadsheets and get into a tool. It's going to give you the visibility. Yes, you're going to put in the same tasks that you had in that spreadsheet, and when the spreadsheet was blank, guess what? You have to start from scratch. And you filled out the tasks, who was involved, how long it took, what time, et cetera. You're going to do that in XL release. So now we have, for the past year, have this momentum of all of our releases for production releases in the tool. Well, guess what? We got that transparency. Now we also, furthermore, build up a user community who is excited about the tool. We'll see that in a second. And more importantly, it keeps them tied back to culture again. That's the theme, is it keeps them jazzed and excited with our movement and keeps them involved in our journey. This is a multi-year journey. So we wanted to establish our production baseline. That's what we're getting at a manual workflow, phase 1. If your release takes 10 hours, perfect. At some point, it's going to be less, but when it is, we'll never know what that true efficiency gain is if we never tracked what it is now. Phase 2, we start to slowly integrate automation. And we talk about the full pipeline. Some of our applications are dev, UAT, prod. Some are dev, test, UAT, pre-prod, and prod, et cetera. It doesn't matter. The point is that we're expanding tools capabilities, integrating with other tools, and going beyond our production release. And this is where it really gets fun. Because now we can start piecemealing opportunities for them to get excited about automation while we're building out the enterprise patterns. So the challenge we have is, from a release management perspective, we have all these folks doing their manual workflow production releases. How do we whet their appetite and evolve their user experience? So we introduce notifications. And I really love telling this story because I always see a lot of heads nodding and it resonates with people. Think about releases that occur on a particular weekend and how many emails fly around. So someone has to do work for me, I send them an email, do work, they do it, they email me back. Pretty simple. But now you've done that maybe 10, 15, a couple dozen times for just your one release because you're emailing a ton of people that are involved in your release. But now your business unit's got maybe 20 releases going on that weekend. And then, oh, by the way, that's just one business unit. Well, at Lincoln Financial Group, we got 9. So now we have 8 other business units. So now those minutes become hours, and now those hours become multiple hours, and that's a nice efficiency gain you can hang your hat on by just leveraging a tool to do communication. So think of that. Next up, we try to expand it further with integrating deployment tools, such as XL Deploy and other tools. And what that allows is shift left. we don't have to submit a ticket to a development team, or to an operations team rather, to push a button and do the work. We can do it ourselves. Again, simple stuff. We're not at an enterprise release pipeline for our whole organization yet, but what we're showing is this is our evolution. How are we going to get there? And this is what our release community is saying. Tools easy to use, tasks are more organized, right? They have more transparency and visibility than ever before. I like the one where it says one of the tasks was missed that showed the release progress less than 100%, so we knew it was pending. You didn't get that visibility when emails were flying around, things were in SharePoint, spreadsheets, et cetera. And then lastly, the tools enabling more automation. I just kind of spoke to that around the notifications and deployments. So as we've evolved our user experience from phase 1 workflow to automation, we're also behind the scenes with our DevOps practice building out enterprise patterns so that ultimately people transition from their manual workflow for production releases and leverage the enterprise pattern to get into their automated workflow. But again, that's taking time. That's going to take time. We have to work with all these business units to identify all the teams in our organization and come up with a backlog to onboard them. So what can we do in the interim? So we've identified our enterprise patterns with integrated and customized tools, developed processes, and in this pictorial here, you can see XebiaLabs XL release tool orchestrating, playing that air traffic controller, if you will, up top, sitting over top from a visualization, collaboration, automation perspective. So it's giving us that visibility across the full pipeline from storage, code, build, install, test, validate, and release. We never had that before. So we're getting that visibility. The other area I want to touch upon real quick is our value stream analysis. This is a theme that is part of this conference. You'll hear other presenters talking about it. It's based on lean principles and agile as well. We conduct, working with that DevOps business unit leader, value stream workshops with their organization. And we identify the work streams in their space, and we arrive at ways that we can eliminate waste and gain efficiencies. So we have them bring in their federated architects, their senior developers, their QA, their release managers, system analysts. We have the DevOps business unit leader, who's usually an officer, in the room too. And it's a multi-day workshop. And what do we get out of it? It's really eye-opening for us from a DevOps release management perspective, but also the individuals that do the work and are participating. So what do we mean, and what are some of the outcomes? So we dig into, once you get business requirements, what are all the steps from A to Z till you release in production? How do you code? How do you branch? Do you trunk? What tools do you use? Do you unit testing? Do you functional testing? Are you leveraging any automation for QA, performance testing? Do your applications require security scanning? If so, what are they? How often do you release? What's your release cadence? Where are you with your XL release journey? Are you still doing just production releases? And we do this whole exercise to, again, really arrive at opportunities to help them on their journey. And we find that so much has nothing to do with DevOps. It's just, I submit all these tickets to people to do other work. And then, or I have to send an email, then I have to wait 45 minutes to do testing. So these opportunities come up, and then we create a backlog, and then we work with their team to implement these strategies. So one might be, let's transition off of a legacy version control tool to GitLab. So we're embarking on that journey. We onboard folks with that. That's foundational. Let's just get some quick wins early on before we even start leveraging our automated release pipeline. Because if we don't do that stuff to the left, we're going to struggle onward as we go. When I talked about culture change earlier, I said the goal is to increase the quality of our product and bring it to the market faster. So how are we going to define our delivery performance? So the science behind DevOps, this was, I think, 2016. But the DOER report just came out, and I know there's a presentation around that, and the material still lines up with that. And what's really important is delivery performance predicts higher organizational performance measured in terms of business, productivity, profitability, and market share. So while we're tracking metrics on our manual workflow, we look at change volume and are they completing production releases through the tool. But we know ultimately we want to get to what's your lead time? How long does it take from code commit to code running in production? We're not one of the unicorns, but that's okay. We have teams that sprint that aren't doing DevOps, and they release every 2 weeks. That's okay. That's great. There's other areas that do quarterly. So what can we do collectively to raise our bar and increase our lead time? Deploy frequency. How often is code deployed? Mean time to restoration and change fail percentage. We got a couple minutes. I got one more slide, so I'm not going to dig further in. But these are really 4 of the key metrics that leadership looks for, and you'll be able to produce to show your progress along the way. So in closing, in the spirit of Vegas, here's my lucky 7. Or Kevin's 7, that's corny, but 7 key takeaways. So address culture change first, before doing anything else. Make sure you have strong leadership support within your organization. At Lincoln Financial Group, we do. We have it for our agile transformation. We have it for our DevOps journey. In fact, we have individual contributor roles that roll up to the team goals, department goals, the organization, business unit goals, to overall IT goals. If you will, it's that stake in the ground. That makes it easy. We're fortunate. Some teams will struggle, or some companies will struggle where they scale out just within their business unit and they can't figure out how they can go beyond that from an enterprise perspective. It's because those other business units don't provide the same support that that one did. So again, strong leadership support. Agile and DevOps aren't separate. Bring the processes together into one. If you're waterfall, start Agile first. You won't be successful at DevOps without being Agile. Number 3, equip your release management team to build a bridge from dev to prod, focusing on culture, tools, and training. They know who's involved in a release the best. They know who all the key players are, what tasks they do, how long things take, leverage them. They will help you be able to scale out with your DevOps journey across your enterprise. Run pilots to see what doesn't work. Bless you. What's important here is that it's going to help you, a pilot will help you discover and solidify your requirements. So what does this mean? Test and learn, then expand. Think enterprise, not the car rental company. One-offs won't allow you to scale. So think big. Don't be siloed. Take your success from a pilot and scale it out. Get that leadership support across your enterprise. Next up, you want to create that enterprise release pipeline. This is the pattern which all teams will leverage. So in our case, we have those business units, we have the DevOps leaders, they're accountable for the success for DevOps within an organization. And they're leveraging the enterprise pattern. It's the guardrails that keep people in line. You're driving down the road, you know where you got to stay, at least here in the States, right on the right side because there's lanes. Okay? The guardrails from an enterprise perspective keep you in line and in check. And then lastly, define relevant metrics for delivery performance and track them. And track them not only from your pilot to your enterprise adoption, and communicate your success along the way. So with that, I think we have a couple minutes for questions. I guess we don't. Well, hey, I appreciate everybody, great audience. Lisa and I will be here the rest of the week. They have a booth in the showroom, and feel free to hit us up on Slack or just find us. We'll be here too. So appreciate it. Thank you.